after almost 2.5 years of total development time, the guys over at Canadian developer Motive Studio have delivered on their promises in successfully resurrecting a beloved and once thought to be dead science fiction horror series from the grave.
We want to make sure that we're honoring the legacy, that we stay true to the source, true to the original.
It's really about improving on a lot of different elements to create that original but still new experience.
Can you believe it's been almost 15 years now since the original's release, and 10 years since the last mainline entry in the series? But now, in 2023, after having sunk over 30 hours into the game so far, I can say with great confidence, guys, that Dead Space is truly back. And with it comes much more than just an overhaul in the graphics department. Now, I admit, I was maybe just a little skeptical in the lead up to this game's release, but how could I not be? I absolutely love Dead Space. I want nothing more than for the series to be the best that it can possibly be. But being a product of publisher and developer Electronic Arts can usually go one of two ways. And over the years, I've personally found them to be about as consistent and reliable as a blind and deaf person working for Uber. But I gotta say, having watched some of the developer live streams over this past year or so now, the game went from looking like an exact duplicate with prettier graphics to a meaningful trip back to the USG Ishimura, with an enhanced story, fleshed out characters, and updated gameplay mechanics. Welcome everyone, my name's Danny, and in this video I want to take you on my journey through the Dead Space remake. We'll explore what improvements the game makes over the original, as well as how it justifies its existence in not only the gaming market, but the Dead Space series itself. And in the process, we'll also be finding out just how scary, really, the Dead Space remake is.
Jesus fuck!
Taking place in the 26th century, Dead Space Remake retells the downfall of the planet-cracking mining ship, the USG Ishimura, and its crew, who are all going absolutely mental, and are mysteriously transforming into messy, fleshy, and downright horrific abominations called necromorphs, whose sole purpose is to violently kill and absorb anyone into its alien collective. They're actually not too dissimilar from Star Trek's The Borg if you think about it, only more slimier and far less easy on the eye. Our protagonist and more than capable engineer, Isaac Clarke, has been sent alongside his team to investigate and make repairs to this absolute horror house in space, all the while hoping to reunite with his girlfriend Nicole Brennan, a senior medical officer who has gone dark along with the rest of the crew.
Ishimura, do you copy? Come in. This is the USG Kelly.
You ever hear of a full communications blackout on one of these things?
Never. Come on. Someone pick up the damn phone.
The hell is that?
After learning that something isn't quite right and subsequently crash landing aboard the Ishimura, Isaac and the team must find a way off the infected ship, learning along the way that something far deeper than a physical alien presence is at the core of this terrifying situation.
Isaac. Oh my god, Isaac. You made it.
They're everywhere. Shit, is he,
He's gone. Nothing I can do. What the fuck are these things?
So what's actually different this time around then? Well, let's first take a look at some of the main and supporting characters in the remake. I think the most obvious change here revolves around our main guy Isaac, played by the returning Dead Space legend himself, Gunnar Wright. In the original game, Isaac seemingly took a vow of silence of sorts, remaining mute throughout the whole game. And I actually really liked that approach. It made me feel like I was in the character's shoes that little bit more, you know? And with only Isaac's now iconic breathing and footsteps for company as you traverse this overwhelming, cold, metallic death trap, it brought the feeling of being isolated that much closer to home. However, the flip side of this meant there'd be times where Isaac would feel a little like a lowly fetch boy of sorts, blindly taking orders from his team without any input whatsoever. You know, from the actual engineer of the group. But I gotta admit, it's actually interesting listening to Isaac engage with his team this time around, discussing what needs to be done around the ship and whatnot, as well as reacting more to some of the game's adversaries and familiar moments. And he'll only really speak when spoken to for the large majority, so that feeling of isolation is still present in this version, I'm happy to say. But you know, I really would have loved the odd bit of feedback from Isaac when fighting off some of the necromorphs, like what Resident Evil 2 Remake did.
Damn it! Get the fuck off! Ah, shit! Jesus Christ!
But overall, having Isaac talk in the remake gives him far more credibility as an experienced engineer, as well as an already established and beloved character. We get the best of both worlds here, and it's an improvement towards the overall narrative for sure.
Up there!
Oh shit. Nice.
Side characters are given much more depth in the remake too, as well as new connections that add more to the overall story. Now originally, there wasn't really a lot of connective tissue, shall we say, that linked a lot of the Ishimura's crew together, and this was never really an issue in all honesty. Side stories like the journey of crewman Jacob Temple, which played out by collecting some of the game's audio logs, made you feel like there really was life on the Ishimura prior to your arrival. People scrambling in the midst of this alien invasion, cutting off their own limbs or pulling their own teeth out from the effects of the mysterious marker signal. It helped bring more believability to the overall narrative and setting.
One more. Oh. Come on, man, just one more.
But in the remake, these guys are given way more time to shine, as well as having a much larger physical presence. And so this gives more of an identifiable human quality to the characters, and fleshes out parts of the overall story in the process. It's awesome to see, as an already existing fan of the original.
I'm so close. I thought it must have the secrets that I need.
You are a woman of science, not faith. Leave the marker to me.
But if I could personally pick just one major improvement to shout and scream about regarding the characters in Motive's remake, it would without a doubt be the overhaul to the Chalice Mercer character.
Isaac. Make us whole.
Isaac Clarke. All right.
Dr. Brennan's nearest and dearest. We were colleagues, you know. Dr. Chalice Mercer.
I absolutely love this scene in the remake, and for so many reasons. Chalice Mercer is one of Dead Space Remake's main antagonists, and one of its most notable improvements over the original. Previously, the player saw Mercer as a very creepy, demented, yet somewhat generic bad guy, and he was always taunting you at a distance in the original, usually with some kind of physical barrier between he and Isaac. And looking back, this could sometimes make the character feel like a bit of a phantom of sorts, but Motive's remake cranks the character up a notch, and then some, to the point this version of Mercer easily overlaps the original in every way possible. This scene is the finest example. Motive have removed the barriers separating the characters here, and instead have cleverly added the stasis mechanic into the scene, allowing Mercer to get right up close to Isaac's face, making it far more personal in the process. And it allows the character to give context in a more authentic and interesting way now, as well as give another perspective and dynamic into the mind of this manipulative medical nutjob.
Convergence is so close. Maybe your death
will tip the balance.
One of my favourite things in the remake, which also happens to include Mercer, is how the Hunter has become humanised now. It made me see this hulking Necro on steroids in a different light after all these years of playing the original. Witnessing the progression of Brant Harris from a manipulated poor soul to what would be known as Mercer's greatest creation was a real treat, I can tell you.
They're probably as narrow-minded as the miners in the colony, yes.
And there are some pretty awesome Easter eggs in this, guys. Now granted, these will only really be for the already existing Dead Space fan, but I'm telling you, if you find them, guys, your mind will be blown and then some, I'm telling you. And there's also some really cool callbacks to the previous games, like the Dead Space 2 intro found in one of the remake's audio logs. I absolutely lost it when I heard these on my first playthrough. And I gotta say, while on the subject, it is so good to have Tanya Clark reprising her role as Nicole from her Dead Space 2 outing. I guess Sheen Gunner helped make the remake whole. Huh? Okay, moving on. Dead Space Remake holds on to what made the original story and characters so great, but expands upon the religious and political intrigue, the accounts of the unfortunate bastards who were unlucky enough to die last, the twists and turns and unbound terrors present from start to finish. Whether you've played the original game or not, there is plenty to discover here in Motive's remake. Just look at this game, guys.
Isn't she beautiful?
One of Motive's primary goals in bringing Dead Space back to life was in updating the original's graphics and overall atmosphere with today's current technology, specifically with the use of EA's in-house Frostbite graphics engine, which has been previously used for titles such as Anthem and the Battlefield series. To say Motive Studio have done an astounding job in taking an already established 15-year-old title and rebuilding it from the ground up would be an understatement. The original's amalgamation of popular sci-fi horror movies such as Event Horizon and Aliens made for a truly unsettling yet incredibly exciting experience back when the game first released in 2008 on the PS3 and 360 consoles. I'm running the Dead Space Remake on the PlayStation 5 system in performance mode, now giving me that smooth and buttery 60 frames per second, but at the cost of taking a small hit in graphical fidelities. But I can assure you, from first-hand experience, the game still looks incredibly good. From the smaller details, like Isaac's suit for example, glistening with a Necro's freshly spewed guts, to the more apparent aesthetics such as the silent, lethal beauty that resides outside of the Ishimura. It's such a joy re-roaming this ship with today's delicious graphical enhancements. And although the odd pop-in or graphical oversight will make itself apparent from time to time, for the most part, the game is just a delight to behold. And the contrast, guys, providing your TV settings are adequately adjusted, and you don't cheat by overcompensating on the brightness of course, because I know there's a few of you out there that do that, get used to aiming your weapon in the remake. A lot. Motive have made damn sure to give the player as close to zero visibility as possible while journeying through the Ishimura's many dark areas. You don't aim, you don't see. That's it.
Jesus Christ, man.
And while the Dead Space remake looks amazingly stunning from beginning to end, it would mean nothing without its incredible sound design supporting the atmosphere.
That was sick.
There's hardly any time to breathe peacefully in Dead Space, and thankfully the remake follows suit in giving you as little downtime as possible. Now I will say, however, that although the Necro vocals are awesome in the remake and largely the same, the original game proper went balls deep with it. Enemies such as the Exploder, for example, just don't sound as fucked up as they did in the original. Thanks to Motive's innovative Alive system, which focuses on bringing even more detail and immersion to the player, smaller details like Isaac's dialogue, breathing, and even his heartbeats, which will ramp up faster depending on the circumstances, are given that much more life and authenticity. Check out this clip of Isaac delivering the same line but in 2 different scenarios. Depending on Isaac's health status or fatigued state, he'll deliver his lines differently depending on these factors.
Handle 12 megatons? You know I'm not a nuclear engineer, right?
I don't need you to be. Just stabilize the warhead and eject it away from the Ishimura.
Christ, Hammond. Handle 12 megatons. You know I'm not a nuclear engineer, right?
I don't need you to be. Just stabilize the warhead and eject it away from the Ishimura.
Christ, Hammond.
No one trained you to carve up monsters with a plasma cutter either. You haven't let us down yet.
Motive didn't even need to do this, but the fact that these little details are included in the game just shows how much the developers wanted to get the atmosphere dead on, so that the player can experience it in multiple ways with each playthrough, all the while remaining immersed as much as possible. When it comes to the remake's music, for me, it's not really a touch on the original. While some tracks are awesome, like the Leviathan theme with its grandiose beats, or the atmospheric and beautiful Zero-G track, as impressive as these are, they seem a little too generic for such an established game. The official soundtrack is mostly just noise, with not much clear connections to the Dead Space we know. I know what the composer Trevor Gorekis is going for, a more focused approach on sudden and loud off-putting sounds incorporated into the main tune, but it's lost some of the iconic presence from the OG as a result. And I gotta just mention here that Claudia Besso returns as the ship's computer. Now I can deal with a different actor for Kendra and Hammond, although I did really enjoy Peter Mentz's take on the latter, and Kendra is great in the remake, I gotta say. But without Claudia's distinctive computer voice, it'd be like having egg on beans on toast without the egg, you know what I mean?
Collect kinesis and stasis modules from Acting Chief Engineer Jacob Temple. Location? Error. Employee not found.
Temple as well, man.
I can't reach security.
This is Temple.
Little details like Isaac's dialogue delivery or the subtleties in the graphics, which are encompassed by the more apparent aspects, ensure that you get sucked into the game as much as possible. So slap your headphones on, turn off the lights, and make sure you've already been to the toilet, of course.
Oh, I love that you can control how fast Isaac walks. Jesus, fuck!
Yes, I can confirm Dead Space is still scary in 2023.
Oh shit! Oh my god, there's loads! What the fuck? What is that? Whoa, that scared me shitless!
But come on, how could it not be? Dead Space Remake's gameplay, including its scripted jump scares and scary moments, has remained largely untouched in the remake. And that's actually quite telling. The original never really suffered from poor gameplay or lackluster scares to begin with. It was all so new, fresh and exciting, cutting off limbs in place of aiming for the heads, viewing your health and ammo counts without the need of a heads-up display, or how effective the assortment of jump scares and tense moments were strategically implemented throughout the game. But there certainly are improvements and enhancements to the remake's gameplay to be sure, and for a start, Isaac has never controlled this well before. You have total control of Isaac's walk speed in the remake, and with the very responsive camera control allowing for more dexterity, adding to the cinematic tone combined, feels far smoother than a supermodel's backside covered in honey.
Yummy.
Side quests are more readily available in the remake and allow you to uncover more items and upgrades of sorts, but more especially delve deeper into these connective stories as alluded to earlier that spread the lore out and One awesome detail I loved was how, and this is a bit of a spoiler warning here, Isaac's dialogue will change completely depending on how deep you've delved into the Hunter side quest, for example. Gunplay and combat have seen some significant changes too, and this is a personal preference of course, but this is the first time ever that I've enjoyed using the Force gun in Dead Space, especially with its new and improved secondary fire, sucking in all nearby necros via this beautiful vortex of sorts, which will then allow you some time to breathe as you decide how best to dispatch your enemies. And then there's the Ripper, an amazing weapon when it comes to actually stunning the necros from my experience. In the original game, stunning was commonplace across most of your weapons and was one of the only reasons why the plasma cutter was such a beast, covering both medium and far ranges with ease. But in the remake, enemies simply couldn't give a shit.
I think you better pull the trigger, because I don't give a fuck!
Sorry Plasma Cutter, but in 2023, there's a new king in town, and its name is the Ripper. And if you want my advice guys, keep the Ripper in your inventory. It allows you to practically push towards and around your enemies, controlling most of your immediate surroundings and making you feel like an empowered badass as a result. But don't get too cocky now. Whether you've played the original Dead Space or not, Motive's new Intensity Director means that pretty much anything can happen at any time. And this randomizer of sorts is so needed in horror games in general these days. Anything that promotes unpredictability, be it scary sounds or an actual physical presence, especially on multiple playthroughs, will only make for a better horror experience overall.
Son of a bitch. Oh shit, there's someone behind me. What? What? You're gonna seriously do that to me? Oh my god, there's loads. What is this about? I don't give a shit anymore.
I don't give a fuck!
What the fuck? You proper jumped at me. Jesus Christ. What the fuck? That was nasty.
And coupled with the new security clearance feature, which gradually updates as you progress through the game, it gives more reason and relevancy to retread your steps as you unlock new items and upgrades. The play area in and around the Ishimura has also been expanded, allowing for completely new experiences, with other areas being tweaked to complement the ship's new architecture. When I entered the remake's centrifuge area in Chapter 3 for the first time, I was astounded and honestly flabbergasted with how much more grander in scope the area had now become. As an existing fan, I knew what my objective was and how to accomplish it, but stepping into this vastly improved area made me feel like I did when I played the original for the very first time, and I legit remember asking myself, where the hell do I even start here? And that's a huge compliment to the developers.
That was actually pretty awesome, man.
Ah, the old ADS system. How could I not bring this up, guys? Motive Studio have heard the cries of many a Dead Space fan when it comes to some of the more challenging objectives that were present in the original. Chapter 4's manual asteroid defense system being the finest example. This part of the game was loathed by a lot of the community for how tough it was, and I'll freely admit, it made yours truly rage like a nut a time or two, I won't lie. So what Motive have done then, in this instance, is combine the run-up leading to the ADS cannons with the actual shooting of the asteroids from the original, and so have made a more manageable yet cool little callback as a result. The remake also includes this new feature, a rewiring system of sorts, where in one instance you'll be choosing to decide to complete a task with either zero oxygen or no lights at all. And while a very cool, intense new addition to the remake, as well as complementing Isaac's status as an engineer, I just wish there were more of these choices in the game. There are actually a couple of extra cool puzzles to give your brain a mild workout too, like in Chapter 9 where you must block this fire using telekinesis, all the while treading as carefully as possible. But unfortunately, I can't say that the remake's gameplay is without any faults whatsoever, or rather, personal niggles, shall we say, for the most part. On my second playthrough, I died during this section. When I was brought back to the area, the fire was gone, and in one instance would completely fizzle out as I got closer. Now, unless this was a glitch, I'm not at all keen on this hand-holding approach, at all, especially seeing as I only died once here.
What? Oh my god, they're actually giving it to me. That's stupid. That's stupid. I gotta save that.
And speaking of glitches, my god, are there plenty in this game for you to discover, and chances are you'll run into at least a few of them on your first run through. But I gotta admit, the vast majority of these hiccups, shall we say, are absolutely hilarious.
What? Oh my god, this is a glitch. What the hell? This is the first... Okay, alright. Just standing there like, you want a piece of me? Like John Travolta in Broken Arrow, just before he gets pummeled by that nuke. I'm just gonna slip on by you. I mean, what is that about? What is that about?
I gotta address this, guys. Motive, mate. What are you doing with the pain treasure? Traditionally, pain treasures, which can be sold at the shop for a nice amount of credits, are craftily hidden out of sight, so that the player would have to actively search for them. But here, I guess because Motive didn't want to make things too difficult for modern audiences, the pain treasure is about as hidden as a fat whitehead on the end of your nose. But as I say, these little issues are just that, for the most part anyway. The overall gameplay remains familiar, but fresh, revitalised with an emphasis on strategic improvements, without the need to mindlessly cut back content. I'm looking at you, RE3 Remake. This is, without a doubt, the definitive way to experience the first Dead Space game. Let me ask you something. When you think of the word remake, is there a particular video game that springs to mind? The past handful of years alone have certainly provided many successful and accomplished remakes, with lots more on the way in 2023 and beyond. I can tell you, for me, personally, I almost always find myself back in 2002 when Resident Evil re-released on the Nintendo GameCube. It was a totally fresh experience filled with photorealistic graphics which, at the time, blew the minds of everyone who were brave enough to step back into the Spencer Mansion. It introduced new stories, layouts and gameplay mechanics, but maintained a heavy emphasis on familiarity so as to ensure the spirit of the original would remain intact throughout the whole experience. It really did improve on the 1996 classic in every way, cutting away any facts that previously held it back in the process. Dead Space Remake is a similar story, and while it just doesn't quite stand shoulder to shoulder with the RE Remake for me, it comes damn close to doing so. I would have loved a new enemy type or two, perhaps a little more charm in the dialogue, more flipped expectations like the tentacle that grabs you from behind. But I'll tell you, Motive Studio should be proud of themselves for what they've accomplished here. They have delivered expectations and then some. Despite my few grievances, I can say that Dead Space Remake is worthy of your time, current fan or not. It is consistently frightening. It is consistently enjoyable. It is consistently Dead Space.
Oh fuck me! Jesus. That fucking scared me. That fucking scared me, that was good. Alright.
Please like this video and subscribe for more content like this, and check out this next video on screen for more EBT goodness. Sound off in the comments below and tell us what you think of Motive's Dead Space Remake, and thank you as always for watching, especially if you've made it this far into the video, and I'll see you all very soon.